See that? I told you I'm like a novice in this shit. I literally just pressed the wrong button. This should just stop. But what was I? Yeah, Mr. Obama was still giving his speech. I'm probably like 30% in now. Maybe not really. This is Obama we talking about, man. The best orator in the last 40 years. I can't say 50 years because Dr. King was only killed 50 years ago, but still. And with these geopolitical changes came sweeping economic changes. The introduction of market-based principles in which previously closed economies along with the forces of global integration powered by new technologies suddenly unleashed entrepreneurial talents to those that once had been relegated to the periphery of the world economy, who had encountered. Suddenly they counted. They had some power. They had the possibilities of doing business. And then came scientific breakthroughs and new infrastructure and the reduction of armed conflicts. And suddenly a billion people were lifted out of poverty, and once starving nations were able to feed themselves, and infant mortality rates plummeted. And meanwhile, the spread of the internet made it possible for people to connect across oceans and cultures and continents instantly were brought together, and potentially all the world's knowledge could be in the hands of a small child in even the most remote village. Now y'all see why I'm doing this for my daughter who's about to be 4 in 7 days, whom I haven't met yet. Ebola had everything to do with that, and also Republican policy in the waning days of the Obama administration had everything to do with that. Obama was never a deporter in chief. He had a deporter Congress. That's what happened just over the course of a few decades. And all that progress is real. It has been broad and it has been deep, and it has happened in what, by the standards of human history, was nothing more than a blink of an eye. Yeah? In the standard of human history, 50 years, 100 years is nothing more than a blink of an eye. Real talk. You know what I mean? Okay, let me go back to what you just said. That's what happened just over the course of a few decades. And all that progress is real. It has been broad and it has been deep. It has happened in what, by the standards of human history, was nothing more than a blink of an eye. And now an entire generation has grown up in a world that by most measures has gotten steadily freer and healthier and wealthier and less violent and more tolerant during the course of their lifetimes. I don't know about less violent now. Nah, Mr. Obama, I know you've been optimistic for the people out in the motherland. You know what I mean? I get it, but you can't you can't keep the kids gloves on all the time on people though. You know what I mean? We gotta. And I also know, you know what, I'm sorry, so I take that back. I know there's a lot of things you can't say a certain way. That's probably not what I'm helping do here for you, but we haven't been less violent, especially in the United States. You know what I mean? Like, just brothers and sisters out here is just on edge, you know what I mean? Like, just angry and violent, you just have a high propensity for that violent nature for no reason, yo. But let me get back to that. I digress. I'm sorry. He went on to say, and now an entire generation has grown up in a world that by most measures has gotten steadily freer and healthier and wealthier and less violent and more tolerant during the course of their lifetimes. It should make us hopeful. But if we cannot deny the very real strides that our world has made since that moment when Madiba took those steps out of confinement, we also have to recognize all the ways that the international order has fallen short of its promise. In fact, it is in part because of the failures of government and political and powerful elites to squarely address the shortcomings and contradictions of this international order that we now see much of the world threatening to return to an older, a more dangerous, a more brutal way of doing business. So we have to start by admitting that whatever laws may have existed in the books, whatever wonderful pronouncements existed in constitutions, whatever nice words were spoken during these last several decades at international conferences or the halls of the United Nations, the previous structures of privilege and power and injustice and exploitation never completely went away. They were never fully dislodged. Big applause. Caste differences still impact the life changes of people on the Indian subcontinent. Ethnic and religious differences still determine who gets opportunity in Central Europe to the Gulf. It is a plain fact that racial discrimination still exists in both the United States and South Africa. America is the most apartheid country in the world. Like, apartheid in South Africa, America is the most apartheid country in the world, still is, and forever will be unless Black America reads and votes for the next 50 years to start. Because, like Mr. Obama just said, a few decades, 5 decades in the history, in the standard history of humankind, is a blink of an eye. Literally, it's nothing. Come on. But yeah, let me go back to that, man. That was caste differences still impact the life changes of people on the Indian subcontinent. Ethnic and religious differences still determine who gets opportunity from the Central Europe to the Gulf. It is a plain fact that racial discrimination still exists in both United States and South Africa. Cheers and applause. And it is also a fact that the accumulated disadvantage of years of institutionalized oppression have created yawning disparities in income and in wealth, and in education, and in health, in personal safety and access to credit. Women and girls around the world continue to be blocked from positions of power and authority. Cheers and applause. They continue to be prevented from getting a basic education. They are disproportionately victimized by violence and abuse. They're still paid less than men for doing the same work. That's still happening. Yeah. Salesforce just did something. Hey, 60 Minutes did an awesome ass episode on Salesforce. Please check it out. Just go 60 Minute Salesforce. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. Just go look it up. Right now, at this point of all this, right, if you can stop and go look at it, it takes like maybe 15 minutes or maybe 5, 6 minutes in, you get the gist of it. But to really see the full effect of it, look at the whole segment. It worked. They paid women the same as they paid men, and the company did not lose any money, and they got better and better and better results and more productive. Yes, that's true. That's true, men of the world out there. Economic opportunity for all the magnificence of the global for all the magnificence of the global economy, all the shining skyscrapers that have transformed the landscape around the world. Entire neighborhoods, entire cities, entire regions, entire nations have been bypassed. In other words, for far too many people, the more things have changed, the more things have stayed the same. Applause. And while globalization and technology have opened up new opportunities, have driven remarkable economic growth in previously struggling parts of the world, globalization has also upended the agricultural and manufacturing sectors in many countries. It's also greatly reduced the demand for certain workers, has helped weaken unions and labor's bargaining power. It's made it it's made it easier for capital to avoid tax laws, and the regulation of nation states can just move billions, trillions of dollars with the tap of a computer key. And the result of all these trends have been an explosion in economic inequality. It's meant that a few dozen individuals control the same amount of wealth as the poorest half of humanity. Applause. That's not an exaggeration, that's a statistic. Take that for data. How you doing, Mr. Fizdale? You Knickerbocker coach, you? Look at you. I know, hey, the Knicks, the Celtics, the Suns, and the Lakers about to be good, yo. Watch out. I'm not sold on the process yet, but they still got the kid, though. Joel, what up, boy? Ben Simmons, I like your game, man, but I think you're kind of ignorant, and you don't have much. But yeah, I think you're kind of ignorant, and you did not deserve Rookie of the Year. Donovan Mitchell should have had that. or even Kyle Kuzma should have been considered, but that Donovan Mitchell should have. But that's just one poor African's asshole-like opinion. What up, Cornell? That's not an exaggeration, that's a statistic. Think about that. In many middle income and developing countries, new wealth has just chucked the old bad deal that people got because it reinforced or even compounded existing patterns of inequality. The only difference is it created even greater opportunities for corruption on an epic scale. And for once solidly middle class families in advanced economies like the United States, these trends have meant greater economic insecurity, especially for those who don't have specialized skills. People who were in manufacturing, people working in factories, people working on farms. In every country, just about, the disproportionate economic clout of those at the top has provided these individuals with wildly disproportionate influence on the country's political lives and on its media. Citizens United. On what policies are pursued and whose interests end up being ignored. Now it should be noted that this new international elite, the professional class that supports them, differs in important respects from the ruling aristocracies of old. It includes many who are self-made. It includes champions of meritocracy. And although still mostly white and male, as a group they reflect a diversity of nationalities and ethnicities that would have not existed 100 years ago. A decent percentage themselves consider themselves liberal in their politics, modern and cosmopolitan in their outlook, unburdened by parochialism. That's a good word. Parochialism. I think I've saved that word before. A limitation of views of or interests that like that defined by a local parish, narrow-mindedness, closed-mindedness. Okay, unburdened by narrow-mindedness or nationalism or overt racial prejudice or strong religious sentiment, they are equally comfortable in London or New York or Shanghai or Nairobi or Buenos Aires or Johannesburg. Many are sincere and effective in their philanthropy. Many of them count Nelson Mandela among their heroes. Some even supported Barack Obama for the presidency of the United States. And by virtues of my stature as a former head of state, some of them consider me as an honorable member of the club. Laughter. That's what Cornell means when you say you're neoliberal, huh? See, you didn't use the word neoliberal, but you just broke it down for what it is in your long-winded way. Love it. And I get invited to those fancy things, laughter. They'll fly me out. But what's nevertheless true is that in their business dealings, many titans of the industry and finance are increasingly detached from any singular locale or nation state. And they live lives more and more insulated from the struggles of ordinary people in their countries of origin. And their decisions to shut down a manufacturing plant or to try to minimize their tax bill by shifting profits to a tax haven with the help of high-priced attorneys, accountants, or lawyers, or their decision to take advantage of low-cost immigrant labor, or their decision to pay a bribe, are often done without malice. It's just a rational response they consider to the demands of the balance sheet and their shareholders and their competitive pressures. But too often, these decisions are also made without reference to notions of human solidarity or a ground level understanding of the consequences that will be felt by particular people in particular communities by the decisions that are made. Voting in your community can let these white folks who don't live there make the decisions about what happens here. I'm just saying. Can't do it. And from their boardrooms or retreats, Global decision makers don't get a chance to see sometimes the pain in the faces of laid off workers. Their kids don't suffer when cuts in public education and healthcare result as a consequence of a reduced tax base because of tax avoidance. They can't hear the resentment of an older tradesman when he complains that a newcomer doesn't speak his language on the job site where he once worked. They are less subject to the discomforts and the displacements of some of their countrymen that some of their countrymen may feel as globalization scrambles not only existing economic arrangements but traditional social and religious mores. Which is why, at the end of the 20th century, while some Western commentators were declaring the end of history and the inevitable triumph of liberal democracy and the virtues of the global supply chain, so many missed signs of a brewing backlash. A backlash that arrived in so many forms. It announced itself more violently with 9/11 and the emergence of transnational terrorist networks, fueled by an ideology that perverted one of the world's great religions and asserted a struggle not just between Islam and the West, but between Islam and modernity. And an ill-advised U.S. invasion of Iraq did not help, accelerating a sectarian conflict. Applause. Russia, already humiliated by its reduced influence since the collapse of the Soviet Union, feeling threatened by democratic movements along its borders, suddenly started reasserting authoritarian control and, in some cases, meddling with its neighbors. They did. Vladimir Putin invaded the country of Georgia in 2008 during the Olympics while he was sitting there with George Bush in Beijing, China, when Beijing hosted the Olympics at the Bird's Nest. You know what I mean? That was kind of a good Olympic ceremony. China killed it with their decorations and all that. But George Bush was sitting there with Putin, and right underneath for the embassy that was broadcasting the Olympics was talking about how Georgian forces were being attacked by Russian forces. She was awesome. Russia, already humiliated by its reduced influence since the collapse of the Soviet Union, feeling threatened by democratic movements along its border, suddenly started reasserting authoritarian control and in some cases meddling with its neighbors. China, emboldened by its economic success, started bristling against criticism of its human rights record. It framed the promotion of human values as nothing more than foreign meddling, imperialism under a new name. Within the United States, within the European Union, challenges to globalization first came from the left, but then came from more forcefully from the right. As you started seeing populist movements, which by the way are often cynically funded by right-wing billionaires intent on reducing government's constraints on their business interests. These movements tapped the unease that was felt by many people who lived outside of the urban cores. Fears that economic security was slipping away, that their social status and privileges were eroding, that their cultural identity was being threatened by outsiders, somebody that didn't look like them or sound like them or pray as they did. Hey, yeah, I remember when I said that's the reason that I'm really recording me reading, because just like Mr. Obama just said, right? Somebody that didn't look like them, sound like them, or pray as they did. The triple threat, the, the triple threat to white supremacy, white racism, black African immigrant that's a Muslim. Yeah, awesome sauce. Gotta love America, yo. To the pit of misery, Trump. Dilly dilly. Hey, Bud Light, I'm sorry, man. That line was just funny as hell. not y'all commercials, just taking it too far. But I digress. And perhaps more than anything else, the devastating impact of the 2008 financial crisis, in which the reckless behavior of financial elites resulted in years of hardship for ordinary people all around the world, made all the previous assurances of experts ring hollow. All the assurances that somehow financial regulators knew what they were doing, that somebody was minding the store, that global economic integration was an unadulterated good, because of the actions taken by governments during and after that crisis, including, I should add, by the aggressive steps by my administration, the global economy has now returned to a healthy growth. Thank you. America was never not great, you dumbass. America had a black man for president for 2 terms. You can't erase that. And by the grace of God, inshallah, yo, things are going to return to normal when Obama era policies will be put back in place to keep trying to close the social gap and bits and pieces. I think black America is going to read and vote, you know what I mean? Everybody's telling me that I'm wrong, so I'm being too optimistic, but I think I might be able to be a catalytic gadfly. If you don't know what that means and you black in America, please try to figure out what that means. I'm not going to break that down to you. I just refer to myself as that. I need to keep it a little bit humble, even though I'm on an ego trip right now. And yeah, look that up yourself. And a catalytic gadfly. It's a double entendre. But there you go. I should add, by aggressive steps by my administration, the global economy has now returned to a healthy growth. But the credibility of the international system, the faith in experts in places like Washington or Brussels, all that has taken a blow. And the politics of fear and resentment and entrenchment began to appear. And that kind of politics is now on the move. It's on the move at a pace that would have seemed unimaginable just a few years ago. Man, I did not see that coming. Yo, Justin, pharmacist Justin at WHC, you know who I'm talking to. You know who I'm talking to, man. Yo, Justin, please tell the world Alpha did not see it coming. Up until 11/8/16, I did not see that motherfucker coming, yo. I ain't gonna lie. I thought America was better than that, but I forgot. There was a white lash that started when Obama became president 10 years ago. I'm sorry. I'm right. If you think I'm not, you're wrong. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. Nah. I was about to do Trump, so you're fired, but I can't stand it. Like, I have never had, okay, please. Secret Service of the United States under the purview of the Treasury Department, which is headed by Steve Mnuchin, who is the Secretary of the Treasury right now. Please, I am not making a threat against the President of the United States. Please, I am not. I am not Eminem making a rap track. I'm not this and that. I'm not. Please. I know y'all gonna be all up in my shit anyway, but I'm not. I'm just saying my opinion is that because of what this man represents after the 2-term presidency of President Barack Hussein Obama, because of what this man represents, I've never hated another human being more than I hate this man. I despise some humans. I despise Saddam. I despise Bin Laden. I despise Adolf Hitler. I hate Putin too, but I despise him more than I hate him. He's a gangster, you know what I mean? I respect him. I respect his old gangster for that, but he's an evil man, you know what I mean? Can't deny that. But I've never hated another human like I hate Donald fucking Trump. Trust me. And because of my hatred for him, this is all part of the Trump-related post-traumatic stress disorder. It's real, yeah. PRPTSD. See, I can't even make that shit up, yo. His dumbassery is making me sound dumb coming up with his initial syndrome. That was an awesome ass line, wasn't it? Let me stop. Back to my man Obama. But yeah, So the politics of fear and resentment and retrenchment began to appear, and that kind of politics is now on the move. It's on the move at a pace that would have seemed unimaginable just a few years ago. I am not being alarmist, I am simply stating the fact. Take that for data. Look around, applause. Strongman politics are ascendant suddenly, whereby elections and some pretense of democracy are maintained. I don't know if y'all can see that, but nah, y'all probably not. That 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 article right there, underneath of that Obama article, is literally stating who in the world would defend democracy. It has China's president, Xi Jinping, Putin, and then Trump at the bottom. Literally, that's what Obama's talking about right now. But yeah, strongman politics are ascending suddenly, whereby elections and some pretense of democracy are maintained, the form of it. But those in power seek to undermine every institution or norm that gives democracy meaning. Applause. In the West, you've got far-right parties that often are based not just on platforms of protectionism and closed borders, but also on barely hidden racial nationalism. Many developing countries now are looking at China's model of authoritarian control combined with mercantilist capitalism as preferable to the messiness of democracy. Who needs free speech as long as the economy is going good? That's not right. You always need free speech. If it wasn't for the beauty of free speech, my African Buddhist Russian ass would not have the audacity of hope. Hello, Barack. Would not have the audacity to do what I'm doing right now. Trying to tell y'all Trump gonna deport my ass and I wouldn't even be mad. I'll be able to raise my daughter in Africa and then maybe in 10 years when she's 14, bring her to America, let her attend high school here and college and all that good shit. But let her have that African basis. That's all I had wanted for you, baby girl, but your mom's family, and my family too, especially, filial duty. They had a different view of it, you know what I mean? Your grandfather always told me, if everybody else is going this way, I'm going that way. You know what I mean? I can't just follow, you know what I mean? But still. But here, what am I saying though? Who needs free speech as long as the economy is going good? That's not right. The free press is under attack. Censorship and state control of media is on the rise. Social media, once seen as a mechanism to promote knowledge and understanding and solidarity. What's up with black? I cannot believe I'm about to equate a word I just used like not too long ago to diminish Cornel West and his dumbassery and make a correlation to Obama using that same word. But back to what I was saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry, Mr. Obama. I'm sorry, sir. My apologies. Social media, once seen as a mechanism to promote knowledge and understanding and solidarity, has proved to be just as effective promoting hatred and paranoia and propaganda and conspiracy theories. Applause. So on Madiba's 100th birthday, we now stand at a crossroads, a moment in time in which two very different visions of humanity's future compete for the hearts and the minds of citizens around the world. Two different stories, two different narratives about who we are and who we should be. How should we respond? Should we see that wave of hope that we felt with Madiba's release from prison, from the Berlin Wall coming down? Should we see that hope that we had as naive and misguided? Should we understand the last 25 years of global integration as nothing more than a detour from the previous inevitable cycle of history, where might makes right? Thank God I was a baby in those days. Where might makes right, and politics is a hostile competition between tribes and races and religions, and nations compete in a zero-sum game, constantly teetering on the edge of conflict until full-blown war breaks out. Is that what we think? Let me tell you what I believe. I believe in Nelson Mandela's vision. I believe in Nelson Mandela's vision too, Barack. I believe when he said in 2005 that poverty is not an accident, that like slavery and apartheid, it is man-made and can be removed by the actions of human beings. Blacks of the world, we've been inactive for too long. We've been kept down, we've been oppressed, but we have been inactive of the simple basic things that we have at our disposal. On an individual collective level, I'm going to keep saying that. On an individual collective level, if we literally are, these five fingers, when they come together, that's why on an individual collective level, it can be done, but I digress. Let me tell you what I believe, Mr. Obama said. I believe in Nelson Mandela's vision. I believe in a vision shared by Gandhi and King and Abraham Lincoln. I believe in a vision of equality and justice and freedom and multiracial democracy, built on the premise that all people are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights. Cheers and applause. And I believe that a world governed by such principles is possible, and that it can achieve more peace and more cooperation in pursuit of a common good. That's what I believe. And I believe we have no choice but to move forward. That those of us who believe in democracy and civil rights and a common humanity have a better story to tell. And I believe this not just based on sentiment, I believe in based on hard evidence. My man killing it. The fact that the world's most prosperous and successful societies, the ones with the highest living standards and the highest levels of satisfaction among their people, happen to be those which have most closely approximated the liberal progressive ideal that we talk about and have nurtured the talents and contributions of all their citizens. The fact that authoritarian governments have been shown time and time and again to breed corruption because they are not accountable, to repress their people, to lose touch eventually with reality, to engage in bigger and better lies that ultimately results in economic and political and cultural and scientific stagnation. Look at history. Look at the fact. The fact that countries which rely on rabid nationalism and xenophobia and doctrines of tribal, racial, and religious superiority as their main organizing principle, the thing that holds people together, eventually those countries find themselves consumed by civil war and external war. Check the history books. To keep a secret from a black man, put it in a book. If you want to stop right now, stop listening to me at this point and go pick up a book, I will not be mad at you. Every man has a right to decide his own destiny. And in that destiny, it should be no impact. Yeah. Bob Marley said that. That wasn't me. I didn't come up with that. Bob Marley said that, you know what I mean, from Zimbabwe. But still, long story short though, check the history books. To keep a secret from a black man, put it in the book. That's an American thing, but it's so true. Can't get no brothers and sisters to read out here, yo. It's sad. But yeah, the fact that countries which rely on rabid nationalism and xenophobia and doctrines of tribal, racial, or religious superiority as their main organizing principle, the thing that holds people together, eventually those countries find themselves consumed by civil war or external war. Check the history books. The fact that technology cannot be put back in the battle, so we're stuck. See, that's why Mark Zuckerberg cannot really shut down Facebook for like a month or so. Technology cannot be put in the battle. Now you can't contain it. This message that I'm trying to put out might be contained in the battle. Message in the battle. Yeah, remember that movie? If you ain't seen that movie yet, man, you should slap yourself twice on the same cheek. Not both cheeks, just one cheek. Whichever one takes the most pain. But I digress. The fact that technology cannot be put back in the battle, so we're stuck with the fact that we now live close together and populations are going to be moving and environmental changes are not going to go away on their own. So that the only way to effectively address problems like climate change or mass migration or pandemic disease will be to develop systems for more international cooperation, not less. Applause. TPP. That's what that did. That's what that tried to do at least. But this motherfucker right here would do America out of it. China about to try to step in. But they can't do it like Americans can. Can't nobody do it like that. We have a better story to tell, Mr. Obama went on to say. But to say that our vision for the future is better is not to say that it will inevitably win. Because history also shows the power of fear. History shows the lasting hold of greed and the desire to dominate others in the minds of men, especially men. While I was reading Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice, which I'm gonna get into, it's gonna be awesome, y'all. I'm gonna get into it, it's gonna be awesome. While I was reading it, I stumbled upon, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there you go. I stumbled upon when I got to one of the chapters on page 205, titled The Primeval Mitosis, Primeval, mitosis. One of the quotes from that book, one of the excerpts from that book, it says, "It is as if in the evolution of sex, a particle one day broke away from an X chromosome, and thereafter in relation to X chromosomes could produce only an incomplete female, the creature we now call the male. It is to this original chromosomal deficiency that all the various troubles to which the male falls heir can be traced." By Ashley Montague. Even though the name is Ashley, that's a man. You know how British men have the name Ashley. Ashley Montague, Montagu. The book is titled The Natural Superiority of Women. The Los Angeles Library had a copy of it. So, like I said, the other library system is awesome, y'all. It is just awesome. New York, 1957, The Macmillan Company, The Natural Superiority of Women by Ashley Montague. The foreword from this book goes as follows. I'm digressing from President Obama's speech, but he can understand because he just touched on the point how men have been ruining the world for so long that maybe it's time we'll let, see, even the man in me is still thinking in that frame sometimes, even though I think I'm a lot more involved than most men I know. I'm not perfect. I'm seeking progress, not perfection. You know what I mean? But he touched on that, so I want to read a couple of pieces of this book. It went on to say, copyright 1952 and 1953 by Ashley Montague. This is actually the sixth printing in 1957, so sorry about that. To Marjorie, with all my love. And it starts out with, Adams owed more to the American woman than to all the American men he ever heard of, and felt not the smallest call to defend his sex, who seemed able to take care of themselves. But from the point of view of sex, he felt much curiosity to know how far the woman was right. And in pursuing this inquiry, he caught the trick of affirming that the woman was the superior. Apart from truth, he owed her at least that compliment. Baby girl, that's why I'm glad. My first child, and you might be my only child. I don't know God. I don't know what God has in the cards, but I got a feeling you might be my only. That's why I'm glad. You, my child right now, is a girl who's gonna become a woman, who's gonna become a young lady, who's gonna become a young woman, who's gonna become a full-grown woman. I wish in the next 50 years, while you progress in your lifetime, 14 years from now, if you do decide to want to binge watch what your daddy did 14 years prior, please I welcome it. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons why I'm reading from all these different little books, because I'm probably gonna get sued left and right doing this, but I feel in my heart it has to be done. There's a tide in the affairs of men which taken at the floods leads on to great fortunes. Like the bard said there, it's now or never, you know what I mean? Trump made that possible. And he went on to preface it to say, I have been thinking about the theme of this book for some 30 years. For an equal number of years, I have discussed it on and off with various friends. However, it was not until I talked about my ideas with Norman Cousins, editor of the Saturday Review, that upon his origin, I set them down in an article bearing the same title as this book. This was published on the March 1st, 1952 issue of the Saturday Review. Because it was Norman Cousins who suggested the writing of this book, it is a very real pleasure to be able to express my thanks to him both for his interest and for his enthusiasm. I am also obliged to Mr. Jack Kaminsky, publisher of the Saturday Review, for many courtesies. Many thanks are due to Marjorie Chow Husted for her continued interest in this volume. It has been a pleasure to work with Mr. George Platt Brett Jr., president of the Macmillan Company, and with my gentle editor, Miss Eleanor Daniels. To my wife, I hold deepest thanks for her helpful readings of the manuscript and for being all that a natural superior person should be. The foreword goes on to say, this book is designed to bring the sexes closer together, not to set them apart by placing one above the other. If in its pages the natural superiority of women is emphasized, it is because the fact that thus far received far too little attention. And the time is long overdue that both men and women become aware of it and fully understanding its meaning. Natural superiority does not imply social inequality. On the other hand, the plea of this book is for far more mutual love and understanding. And the complete, men just need to be shitty ass assholes. I included. We don't run shit. We were not entitled to control shit, diddly shit. Quagmire's diddly, we were not entitled to feel superior and entitled to it. Period. But I digress. Natural superiority does not imply social inequality. On the other hand, the plea of this book is for more mutual love and understanding, and complete social equality of the sexes. We must acquire a sense of values that will enhance the appreciation of the sexes for each other. That women are superior to men will probably be a new idea to most people, most black men. And when I say most black men, about, let's say hypothetically there are 25 million black men in America. I'm speaking of the 23 or so million who refer to a woman as a bee or a hoe at least twice a day. Once ain't even necessary, but that's just the African in me though. There are plenty other words in the English dictionary to refer to as a woman than a bee, especially a bee, but that's just me though. Back to what I was talking about here. We must acquire a sense of values that will enhance the appreciation of the sexes for each other. That women are superior to men will probably be a new idea to most people. You know what? I might have been wrong in just singling out black men, but I'm not, because I don't give a fuck about white men. Are they pieces of shit anyway? Not all of them. The majority of white men are. I'm just saying, I've known probably 6 or 7 white men in my 20 years in America who are not true pieces of shit in their hearts. And when I mean pieces of shit, bigoted, prejudiced, racist, who are also misogynistic, potential rapists, not unlike our president who's an actual rapist. I'm sorry, Melanie, I feel for you. I really don't. You made your bed. I'm sorry. I was about to call you a feckless cunt, but you're probably feckless cunts 0.5 light. But I digress. I'm sorry. That women are superior to men will probably be a new idea to most people. I am told that there have been 2 or 3 books which have made such a claim, but these I gotta make the claim on grounds very different from those discussed in the present study. I regret to say that I have not read them. In any event, I should like the present book to represent an independent contribution to the subject rather than an analysis or digest of the work of other people. Scott Nearing writes to me that almost half a century ago, he and Nellie Seeds published a book titled Woman and Social Progress, in which certain hitherto unallowed claims were made for women. It also has been pointed out to me that in 1917, H.M. Menkins published a book titled In Defense of Women. Doubtless there has been other books on this theme, and doubtless they are good. In foregoing the pleasure of reading the works of others, I shall, I know, be voluntarily depriving both the reader and myself of a great many valuable support and reinforcements which would have made this book stronger than it is. I have, of course, read a fair number of books on women and the sexes, and there can be not the least doubt that much of what I have read in this field has become part of me, and that I have reproduced ideas which whose paternity is not my own. I am deeply grateful to all my teachers and predecessors, even though I may no longer be able to recall many by name or credit them with ideas derived from them. Finally, do let us preserve our sense of humor and of balance. If sometimes I poke a little lighthearted fun at my own sex, I hope no man will be humorless enough to think that I am casting aspersions upon his sex. Okay. Chapter 1, The Natural Superiority of Women. Alright, so I'm gonna get back to this in a second. Let me finish Mr. Obama's. Okay. We have a better story to tell, but to say that our vision for the future is better is not to say that it will inevitably win. Because history also shows the power of fear, history shows the lasting hold of greed and the desire to dominate others in the minds of men, especially men. Laughter and applause. But that's some true shit though. Ain't no LOL, LMAO, LMFAO, all that bullshit about that. Like, that's some real shit. That's some keeping it 100 shit, you know what I mean? History shows how easily people can be convinced to turn on those who look different or worship God in a different way. So if we truly to continue Madiba's long walk towards freedom, we're going to have to work harder and we're going to have to be smarter. We're going to have to learn from the mistakes of the recent past. We didn't vote. If more black folks had kept voting after 2008 like they did in 2008, Obama would have did so much. Trump wouldn't be president, honest to God, because we would have developed a habit for when we were 8 years in power. Thank you, Ta-Nehisi. We would have developed a good habit that we would have continued in support of Hillary Clinton, who would have definitely continued Obama-era policies. That's why she didn't win. She was a woman. Men, these men that, especially men that Obama's talking about, especially white American men, they weren't going to go vote for Hillary. They weren't going to come because she was a representation of a continuation of what Obama had done for eight years. Probably not. But 9 times out of 10, she would have been. I digress. I'm sorry. History shows how easily people can be convinced to turn on those who look different or worship God in a different way. So if we truly to continue Mandela's long walk towards freedom, we're going to have to work harder and we're going to have to be smarter. We're going to have to learn from the mistakes of the recent past. And so in the brief time remaining, let me just suggest a few guideposts for the road ahead. Guideposts that draw from Madiba's works, his words, the lessons of his life. First, Madiba showed those of us who believe in freedom and democracy we are going to have to fight harder to reduce inequality, and promote lasting economic opportunity for all people. Applause. We got to take action. I'm proposing 2 actions: reading and voting. You can start within 30 minutes. I guarantee if you start within 30 minutes a day, in like 2 months, that 30 minutes is going to turn into about 40, 45 minutes a day. I promise you that. Reading anything. Like Mandela said it, poverty is not an accident. Like slavery and apartheid, it is man-made. The men that Obama was talking about, man-made, and can be removed by the actions of human beings. That's why I truly believe that women should be running at the world right now. Like Beyonce saying, girls, we want the world. But I'm just saying, what up, babe? But still, women really should be running the world. Should not just be in the backgrounds. Us human beings have to take action. Every man, especially every black man, has a right to decide his own destiny. And in that judgment, there is no passion. I'm sorry. Listen to Bob Marley in Zimbabwe right now. I digress. I'm sorry. My bad. I know they said that a man that says sorry is a sign of weakness. That was that drunkard racist Marion, the Duke, John Wayne that said that shit. So he's one of those white thinking men like that. So I don't really give a fuck what he had to say. Men have X chromosomes for a reason. We're supposed to be able to be humble and reticent. No, not reticent. Penitent, the penitent man. You know what I mean? Supposed to be meek. We're supposed to be able to show remorse and be able to apologize. And man saying sorry is nothing wrong with it. So my bad, I digress. First, Madiba showed those of us who believed in freedom and democracy we are going to have to fight harder to reduce inequality and promote lasting economic opportunity for all people. Now, I don't believe in economic determinism. Human beings don't live on bread alone, but they need bread. I could use some bread right now, bro. My ass been running in my mouth this whole time, hungry as shit. But let me stop. I'm about to go get some grub in a second. And history showed that societies which tolerate vast differences in wealth feed resentment and reduce solidarity and actually grow more slowly. And that once people achieve more than mere sustenance, then they are measuring their well-being by how they compare to their neighbors and whether their children can expect to live a better life. And when economic power is concentrated in the hands of the few, history also shows that political power is sure to follow. And that dynamic eats away at democracy. Sometimes it may be straight out corruption, but sometimes it may not involve the exchange of money. It's just folks who are that wealthy get what they want, and it undermines human freedom. And Madiba understood this. This is not new. He warned us about this, he said. Where globalization means, as it so often does, that the rich and the powerful now have new means to further enrich and empower themselves at the cost of the poor and the weaker, then we have a responsibility to protest in the name of universal freedom. Mandela killed it, yo. Yeah, I know I'm about to read that line again, right? Excuse me. If you haven't gotten hip to my mannerisms yet, just this is all part of it, okay? And Madiba understood this. This is not new. He warned us about this. He said, where globalization means, as it so often does, that the rich and the powerful now have new means to enrich, to further enrich and empower themselves. I'm fucking that all up, ain't I? So I'm gonna stop. Where globalization means, as it so often does, that the rich and the powerful now have new means to further enrich and empower themselves at the cost of the poor and the weaker, then we have a responsibility to protest in the name of universal freedom. That's what he said. Obama said that's what Mandela said, and I'm also saying that's what Mandela said. Then there was applause. So, if we are serious about universal freedom today, if we care about social justice today, then we have a responsibility to do something about it. And I will respectfully amend what Madiba said. I don't do it often, but I'd say it's not enough for us to protest. We're going to have to build. We're going to have to innovate. We're going to have to figure out how do we close this widening chasm of wealth and opportunity both within countries and between them. 70% of the NFL, you can literally throw a wrench. You can literally be a fly in their ointment. That is the ever widening chasm of wealth and opportunity, especially in America, especially within America. Since NFL contracts are not guaranteed anyway, the billions that the NFL is going to lose when 70% of the NFL that is black doesn't show up from day one on week one, opening week, especially with this opening Eagles game, because they played the first game on that Thursday night. When you don't show up anyway, whatever fine or whatever lawsuit they bring against you, if you continue on that protest of civil disobedience, non-violent civil disobedience, if you thought Colin Kaepernick affected them when he protested on the field, don't show up at the arena at all. Don't show up at the stadium at all. Do a no call, no show. Or you know what? Fuck the no call, no show. Call them. Tell them you ain't showing up. If your contract says that you have to call 4 hours ahead of time, or 6 hours ahead of time, or 3 hours ahead of time, whatever it is, call them. Let them know. I ain't show up today. Yes, you collectively as the black body of the NFL, of the Negro Fleecing League, the majority representative black body of the Negro Fleecing League, if you decide to take that power in your hands, I guarantee you, they will lose more money than you stand to lose, and you will have more power in your hands to negotiate for better work conditions and better contracts. They cannot, at the last minute, put an all-white product on the field. Even if they do, it will not be right. Didn't they always have the cockamamie idea that the white mind was the smart mind to play the quarterback position anyway? Isn't it what it's like? I guarantee you right now, how many black quarterbacks who we got right now? Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Teddy Bridgewater, and he with the Vikings still? That's the only two I can think of the top of my head right now. Kaepernick ain't in the NFL, so Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston, Cam Newton. I forgot about Cam Newton. Oh yeah, Cam. I forgot. Natural superiority of women. Like I'm dedicating Kendrick to Kanye. I'm dedicating this one to you. You know what I mean? This one is to you. You should read it. Maybe Dannon might bring you back too. But still, I digress. But yeah, even those players might not show up. Yes, you're the face of the team. I guarantee you, they have more to lose than you have to lose. And if you're sitting there right now wondering, oh, what the hell is this African booty scratcher talking about? He don't know how many millions I'm gonna lose. Put it this way: if you've never had millions in your life to start with, can't you survive by missing a few paychecks? Shouldn't you have some money tucked away for you to be able to survive just in case you aren't able to continue playing anymore? If you're not, I know a lot of y'all don't have forward plans like that, but I'm just saying, I truly believe that if y'all get where I'm coming from, I know Richard Sherman get where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? I know he does. He's proposed this before. So, long story short, week one, don't show up. They cannot put an all-white product out there. You ain't gonna have Christian McCaffrey is the only white running back in the league. The only one worth anything, worth his salt. I'm just saying. Forgive me for any other white running backs that I'm forgetting. You're going to have a bunch of tight ends, a bunch of, you're going to have some linemen. You're going to have quarterbacks for like 92% of the teams. 92% of the teams are going to have a quarterback. You know what I mean? They're going to be fine and dandy. But yes, they can accuse y'all of doing it out of racial strife. Yeah, why not? What the fuck do you think Trump represents? Trump represents a white lash of America. Listen to Whoopi Goldberg said that to some white lady. I think it was John McCain's daughter or something, or somebody else that was on that show. But I think it was her. You know what I mean? I know there was all on the Trump bandwagon then, you know, even though, you know, she's entitled to her own opinion. So, but long story short though, I truly believe that right there, yeah. And if you're wondering what else I'm proposing you should do, put it this way. If I know there's more than 1,000 players in the NFL, so let's just use 1,000 because it's easier to play around with in the mind. It's a nice even number, 1,000, keeping it 100 times 10. You know, let's say there's 1,000 players in the NFL and 70% is black. That's 700 men, right? Let's say each of them has $1 million to put up. You put that up, that's $700 million right there. You can literally, that's literally seed money for a bunch of businesses between. You can literally fulfill Marcus Garvey's idealized Pan-Africanism dream of the Back to African movement in the business sense, in the economic laborer sense. I told you earlier, man, 54% or more of the population of Africa is under the age of 18. That's a workforce for the generation. But since you're black and you're American and you're coming from America, you have that financial backing that's your own. Look at what Hakeem is doing. Olajuwon is a businessman. I got an article, the longest article that I'm gonna read. Like the article is titled, let me see. The article is titled "A Slam Dunk in Houston Real Estate." It's gonna be awesome. But yeah, Olajuwon is doing it in a way where he doing it solo. It's not too many brothers, not too many. I'm gonna be specific here now. African Americans of African descent, born Americans of African descent, men in the NFL with that much capital that thinks along those lines. That's part of the problem. Like the Bard said, that's part of where it lies the rub. I mean, therein lies the rub. I hope I use that in the right context. I think I might have. I probably jumped it a little bit. But, you know what I mean? I say, man, Juju's diapers. For less than $500,000, you can literally have factories running in Africa, employing Africans and educating them. In a sense where for every person you have working in your manufacturing plant or in anything, any trade they're learning, they go sit in the classroom for free for 2 hours a day. That builds mental superiority. That builds productivity. That makes you a better person. Then it creates one language that you can communicate on. Because Africa has so many tribes, so many different dialects and languages, it's hard to communicate on one universal level. That's one of the advantages that America has, is that we can communicate on one level, which is English. You know what I mean? So I had to just go there real quick, you know what I mean? Because Obama was talking about how, and like he said, that's what he said. So if we are, this is, so Obama speaking out, I'm kind of done with my little soliloquy right there for a second. So he says, if we are serious about universal freedom today, if we care about social justice today, then we have a responsibility to do something about it. And I will respectfully amend what Madiba said. I don't do it often, but I'd say it's not enough for us to protest. We're going to have to build. We're going to have to innovate. We're going to have to figure out, do we close this widening chasm of wealth and opportunity, both within countries and between them? Applause. And how we achieve this is going to vary country by country. And I know your new president is committed to rolling up his sleeves and trying to do so. But we can learn from the last 70 years that it will not involve unregulated, unbridled, unethical capitalism. It also don't involve old-style command and control socialism from from the top. That was tried, it didn't work very well. For almost all countries, progress is going to depend on an inclusive market-based system, one that offers education for every child. You work 8 hours a day, you read, you go sit in the classroom for free and for 2 hours. Every man, woman, and child. You know what? I have been thinking about something. Let me stop here for a second. I have been thinking about something just now when I was saying that. Like a lot of black folks are probably thinking that why is this African proposing a back to African movement to open factories in Africa, but he's not talking about nothing that's going to help us here in America. Where you think those products are going to be sold? Who you think the consumers are of those products that I'm proposing? I'm proposing a black buying black, made by black. And the reason I'm proposing the African connection, like DJ Khaled said, that Arab money, the African connection, the reason why I'm proposing that, because that's where the labor is cheapest in terms of the dollar and the currencies of these African nations. You can provide cheaper labor over there and provide marketing and management and the selling of the product itself right here. You're also going to have that over there. You know what I mean? You're also going to have the selling of the products in those continents because people will buy it if it is made by themselves and if they see that it's going to the party, it's improving their standard of living. It's improving their lives, their daily lives. The children can afford to go to school, education. They can afford to be able to go to the hospital without having to worry about where the money is going to come because I had to spend that money on putting food on the table. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, yes, but at the same time, though, it's a connection. I'm not talking about living in America, go live in Africa. I ain't talking about that. It's a connection. Like, literally, it's a global thing. Black might be a minority in America, but worldwide, even the Chinese ain't fucking with us. The Chinese probably number 1.3 or 1.4 billion people. People of African descent all over the world, all continents across all oceans, number about 1.7, 1.8 billion people. Trust and believe. It can be done on an individual collective basis. And the reason why I'm speaking directly to Black America in this context, I've alluded to it before. The progress of people of African descent all over the world moves at the level of which Black American progress moves. It does. It has been so historically, especially over the last 70, 80 years that Mr. Obama just said, especially over the last 70 years, when a lot of the African nations were actually getting like their independence, you know what I mean? And at the same time in the United States, Brown versus Board of Education was getting passed, you know what I mean? The Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing, a bunch of things it's been happening. It's a bigger picture, it's a global black picture. We got to put aside our niggling little ethnic self-hate. I digress though, you know what I mean? Maybe that answers 10% of my intention when I mean is a correlation, but it starts with black men, especially athletes, especially in the NFL, in the Negro Fleecing League, because NBA athletes, they're actually getting their money. Baseball only got about 8, 9, maybe 9.5% of the players in the MLB of African descent. Hockey is probably 3%, probably less. Maybe I'm giving it too much credit, you know what I mean? Long story short though, the NFL is disproportionately oppressive to the progress of the black men that actually make that sport what it is. It is a representation of what the black man and what the slave trade represented in America's it's in America becoming what it is today. 400 years of free labor, namely King Cutting. Thanks Hatib. My man Hatib was the first one I had broke it down like that. You know what I mean? He probably broke that down like 2007. First time I went back to Sierra Leone after coming to America. I digress again. But yeah, though, it's just me floating the ideas out there. This is definitely going to come out well before the season starts in the first week of September. So, the second week of September, it's usually after Labor Day. So, yeah, like what I'm proposing is not far fetched. You want to put the fear of God into white America, read and vote, and let these NFL players take the power of their collective bargaining and stay away and actually venture into the business world. That's where the money at. There are two tax brackets in America, individual and business. The corporate tax code and the individual tax code, period. Everything else is just icing on the cake. Right now, those 700 hypothetical men, I know it's more, those 700 hypothetical black men right now have the financial position to band together and create a conglomerate. Not just maybe one, conglomerates. Like Diddy said yesterday, Black Panther was a cruel achievement. Guess what? We're the only people that went and saw Black Panther like that. If white folks would have went and saw Black Panther, that shit would have been, it would have broke all the motherfucking records. That was all our money right there. But that money ain't really go to our communities for real, for real, for real. Ice Cube been talking about it forever. Hollywood is jacked up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, like, it's just so much more, it's a global black thing. But I digress again. I'm sorry, yeah. I feel like this gotta be said. If you still feel like I'm wrong in what I'm doing, please tune me off. Go listen to Kanye or something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, please. I ain't no rapper, I ain't nothing. All I do is read. Everybody that knows me, everywhere I've been right now, they know I read all day. People ask me all day, why you read so much? And I look at it, I say, why not? The mind is a terrible thing to waste, yeah. This is your brain. It's like, now let me stop. And how we achieve this is going to vary country by country. And I know your new president is committed to rolling up his sleeves and trying to do so. But we can learn from the last 70 years that it will not involve unregulated, unbridled, unethical capitalism. It also won't involve old-style command and control socialism from the top. That was tried, it didn't work very well. For almost all countries, progress is going to depend on an inclusive market-based system, one that offers education for every child, that protects collective bargaining and secures the rights of every worker. Applause. That breaks up monopolies to encourage competition in small and medium-sized businesses, and has laws that root out corruption and ensures fair dealing in business, that maintains some form of progressive taxation so that rich people are still rich but they're giving a little bit back to make sure that everybody else has something to pay for universal health care and retirement security, and invest in infrastructure and scientific research that builds platforms for innovation. Yeah, I remember earlier when I was talking about how Obamacare actually was closing the gap a little bit, was taking a little bit more from the rich and giving a little bit more to the poor. Obama era policy. I've been living in historic times. Trump deport me right now. I'm not mad. Like I'm telling y'all, man. You know what? I gotta say this too. I hope Cornel West don't come out trying to label me a neoliberal who's doing this for the money, who's a mouthpiece for some deep state. You know what I mean? I know Fox 5 is gonna be all over this shit. They're gonna dissect everything I've done in my life, everything I've said, everything I haven't said. So I'm not worried about all that. I ain't tripping. Like I said, I just hope they don't take my life. And I don't want to do no time in jail. So Trump, if you're going to deport me, deport my ass, man. I look like my mother and a little bit of my father, so I'm a handsome black man. I don't want to go to jail, even though I might have the protections of the Muslims. I might have the protections of, you know, the black groups in there too. I don't know. I'm not counting on that. I ain't trying to do no jail, man. Come on now, I ain't trying to do that. So even if if you're gonna deport me, man, and I keep saying that because I am quite legal in this country, but knowing what the Trump administration has been up to, the things that people are not hearing about. I'm not talking about those kids at the border being separated from their parents. I'm talking about things being done to actual green card holders in this country. It's not funny. Trust and believe. Y'all gonna hear about that shit down the road. You know what I mean? I'm I'm going through that shit now. So long story short, Trump, please don't send me to one of the other detention centers. If you want to put me out of the country, man, just put me on the plane ASAP and let me go. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm not doing this for nothing. I got a job that's helping me keep a roof over my head. You know what I mean? Thank God I'm able to do that. I wish this man deports me because that way I'd have probably proven to my father that his last son actually knows some of the things he was talking about when it comes to having a vision and expanding things into the future, like he envisioned 20 some years ago when he 27, 28 years ago when he opened up his first business. Actually 30 years ago, my father opened up his first business, his most consistent business 20 years ago. So I hope he can see that and I can help my daughter's mom raise our child if she still can find it in her heart to not want to kill me. You know what I mean? I know she ain't gonna do it. I'm the father of her child, so she loved that little girl too much not to do that to her. But I digress. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I was about to say Cornell West, Fox News, all y'all gonna label me with what y'all gonna label me if I don't get sued to the point where I actually make a living off of this. I ain't gonna be mad at it. Everything is hustle, right? Everything is a hustle, right? This is life, right? But at the end of the day, though, I'm not doing this for financial motives. I feel like I gotta do this. I'm quite literally infringing on a lot of copyrights to do this, so I'm not tripping. Sometimes certain things gotta be done. Ooh, what is it? Damn. What the hell is it? It's right at the tip of my mind. Desperate times call for desperate measures. There you go. Mr. Obama went on to say, I should add, by the way, right now I'm actually surprised by how much money I got. And let me tell you something, I don't have half as much as most of these folks or a tenth or 100th. There's only so much you can eat. There's only so big a house you can have. Cheers and applause. There's only so many nice trips you can take. I mean, it's enough. Laughter. You don't have to take a vow of poverty just to say, well, let me help out and let a few of the other folks let me look at that child out there who doesn't have enough to eat or needs some school fees. Let me help him out. I'll pay a little more in taxes. It's okay. I can afford it. Cheers and applause. I mean, it shows a poverty of ambition. That's a good phrasing. A poverty of ambition. I like that, bro. I like that. I tell you, man, bro, you could talk. So I tell you, man, you could talk. But where was that? I mean, it shows a poverty of ambition to just want to take more and more and more instead of saying, wow, I've got so much. How can I help? Wow, I've got so much. Who can I help? How can I give more and more and more? Cheers and applause. That's ambition. That's impact. That's influence. What an amazing gift to be able to help people, not just yourself. Applause. Where was I? I ad-lib. Laughter. You get the point. Actually, Obama said, you get the point, and I'm saying you get the point. But yeah, he said that. After he said, I ad-lib, and he chuckled, he said, you get the point. It involves promoting an inclusive capitalism both within nations and between nations. And as we pursue, for example, the sustainable development goals, we have to get past the charity mindset. We've got to bring more resources to the forgotten pockets of the world through investment and entrepreneurship. Hey, a baby girl. She was this one time, right? Me and your mom's now was laying there in bed. And she was pregnant with you. She was maybe about uh 2, 3 months pregnant with you. Yeah, maybe nah, maybe like a month and a half pregnant with you. So now we laying there in bed, we talking, we chit chatting. I'm telling her about my my whole thing about because after I went to Sierra Leone and we got married, I had no intentions of coming back to America, y'all. Honest to God, but God had His own plans, His own intentions. You know what I mean? I was meant to be here in the age of Trump becoming president after the days of President Barack Hussein Obama. I was meant to. I was meant to witness that firsthand. You know what I mean? Not from a distance. So, long story short, we were laying in bed talking one time. I was talking about how, oh man, I just want to just open up factories, just making simple little things like diapers, slippers, t-shirts, hats, jeans, little things like that. Just have people being able to feed themselves, you know what I mean? Afford for themselves and be educated at the same time. But I had a quiver to that. Like, I don't want to be a political leader. I'm quite political in my mind, but I'd much rather be a businessman because men were naturally greedy. I want to be able to make some money and help people share in their making money by also improving their their way of life. And I also told her like ambitiously, if after 40, 50 years of running a successful business and doing that at the same time, and when I say doing that, I mean, like I suggested to the NFL players earlier, if I personally, Alpha owns a diaper factory in Sierra Leone right now in Mashaka, I can hire 300 people. If you work for me for 8 hours a day, go sit in the classroom for 2 hours a day. I want you to learn English so in 15, 20 years, we can all communicate on the one level. As per se, I'm, I'm saying English because English is easier to understand than most other foreign language. Yes, it's true. It's true. Ask anyone else who English wasn't a second language for them. English is easier to understand than any other language in the world. So we were talking about that, so I'm saying that she said a line that I will never forget, which sums up the thinking of a majority of Africans, especially in Sierra Leone too. I'm not saying all, but a majority. She said, honey, if you know sit down that member but if you get into a position for do things like that, get your own piece of the national cake and sit down suffer at your own corner. What she meant by that to all English speaking listeners, what she meant by that, she pretty much saying, boy, if you don't sit there and if you get in that position where you can get your own piece of the national cake and just enjoy your own lifestyles of the world, if you don't think like that, if you don't think about that, I say, yeah, I hear what you're saying with that, babe, but that's not where I'm at with it. What's the point of that? Like, for all that, I might as well stay in my own little corner and enjoy my little slice of what I'm getting, whatever the fuck I'm getting. So, long story short, though, that just always stayed in my mind. You know, couples, if you listen to this as an adult, as an 18-year-old or older right now, you're gonna eventually learn that couples say things when they're having private spousal moment when you think in your mind that that gives you insights into who you're with. You know what I mean? You will get it. You know what I mean? You've been raised by your mother, and hopefully I can help raise you moving forward so you can understand how men are and you can know how to deal with men as you become of age, as you become a young woman and a young lady and a full-grown adult woman. You know what I mean? Because men with some shit. That's why I'm glad. That's why I'm glad that God gave me you. I wish I would have a little brother for you in the future that will carry my name forward. But if I don't, you are enough. And if you do end up having a little brother, I hope he realize what the importance and the value of him having an older system means for him growing up to become a real man. You know what I mean? But I digress again. Well, where was I? It involves promoting an inclusive capitalism within nations and between nations. And as we pursue, for example, the sustainable developmental goals, we have to get past the charity mindset. We've got to bring more resources to the forgotten pockets of the world through investment and entrepreneurship, because there is talent everywhere in the world if given an opportunity. When it comes to the, yo, that right there, that's why I'm so glad when your teacher, Miss Touré, said that you understand concept well. Try to tell you, you are your mother and your father's daughter. Never forget that. You are probably going to be one of the brightest, smartest humans the world has ever seen, has ever witnessed. I believe that. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to put too much pressure on you. Live your life, enjoy your life, but know that you were able to grasp concepts and you were able to understand certain things when you were young enough that you're not gonna put two and two together with till you get to like maybe in your late 20s, early 20s, 30s, and 40s, maybe younger. But believe it, believe you me, it will be like that, because yes, you are your father and your mother's daughter. We've got to bring more resources to the forgotten pockets of the world through investment and entrepreneurship, because there is talent everywhere in the world if given an opportunity. When it comes to the international system of commerce and trade, it's legitimate for poor countries to continue to seek access to wealthier markets. And by the way, wealthier markets, that's not the big problem that you're having. He said, by the way, wealthier markets, Trumpite racist Americans, that's not the big problem that you're having, that a small African country is sending you tea and flowers. That's not your biggest economic challenge. It's also proper for advanced economies like the United States to insist on the reciprocity from nations like China that are no longer solely poor countries, and to make sure that they're providing access. Did you just support Trump's trade war? I know you didn't, but I know you didn't. I know where we're going with it, bro. I know you didn't, bro. Like, Trump is a dumb fuck. That's probably why I'm. That's probably why I'm reading on video, because the motherfucker can't read. Hopefully he can watch me too. Oh, so I know he will. You know what I mean? The man actually listens to what people that don't like him say. That's why he always know what he has to say about people that don't like him. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I am. He can regurgitate. He can tweet out something about me. Fuck you. You can kiss my light-skinned African ass on your fuck the way to hell. Where was that? Oh yeah. When we've got to bring more resources to the forgotten pockets of the world through investment and entrepreneurship, because there is talent everywhere in the world if given an opportunity. Cheers and applause. When it comes to the international system of commerce and trade, it's legitimate for poor countries to continue to seek access to wealthier markets. And by the way, wealthy markets, that's not the big problem that you're having, that a small African country is sending you tea and flowers. That's not your biggest economic challenges. Yo, it's so funny that you talk about small African countries sending flowers. You know that you cannot even buy roses in Freetown, Sierra Leone to give to your wife or your significant other for Valentine's? You gotta buy all these little toys that's been made in China and shit, all these little plastic. That a small African country is sending you tea and flowers. That's not your biggest economic challenge. It's also proper for advanced economies like the United States to insist on the reciprocity from nations like China that are no longer solely poor countries, to make sure that they're providing access to the market and that they stop taking intellectual properties and hacking our servers. Laughter. But even as there are discussions to be had around trade and commerce, it's important to recognize this reality. While the outsourcing of jobs from north to south, from east to west, while a lot of that was a dominant trend in the late 20th century, the biggest challenge to workers in countries like mine today is technology. It's not labor. It's technology is making this generation want to be lazier and less productive. He didn't say that. That was on me right there. He stopped at countries and workers like mine to this technology. Okay. While the outsourcing of jobs, this is Mr. Obama again. While the outsourcing of jobs from north to south, from east to west, while a lot of that was a dominant trend in the late 20th century, the biggest challenge to workers in countries like mine today is technology. And the biggest challenge for your new president when he thinks about how we're going to employ more people here is going to be also technology. Because artificial intelligence is here and it is accelerating. And you're going to have driverless cars. You're going to have more and more automated services. And that's going to make the job of giving everybody work that is meaningful tougher. But we're going to have to be more imaginative. And the path of change is going to require us to do more fundamental reimagining of our social and political arrangement to protect the economic security and the dignity that comes with a job. It's not just money that a job provides. It provides dignity and structure and a sense of place and a sense of purpose. Education also provides those things. That's why I say, if you're going to employ somebody, have them work for 8 hours a day, let them sit in the classroom for 2 hours. 2 hours is crucial because 5 days a week equals 10 hours a week. 10 hours a week times 52 weeks a year, that's about 520 hours a day, a year. That's a lot. That's a lot for somebody who has never had, for somebody in a poor African country who's probably never had even 100 total hours. If I do 100 hours of this right now, there's about 70% of the continents of Africa that haven't had that much educational access in their lifetime. And most of them are over the age of 40, 50, and 30s and all that, even 20, some of them in their teens. They haven't had over 100 years of access to reading material education. You provide 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. If you got people working overtime 6 days a week, even better. 12 hours times 52 times 52 weeks, you know what I mean? That's a lot more math from the crunching on my head right now, but it's easier to just say 10 hours a week. I'm just saying, you're doing a lot. You're providing financial security for that person. It's not just money that the job provides. If you do that with your factories, like Juju's diapers, there's his teas, there's wine, tea and flour, Kaepernick's bouquets, Kaepernick's bountiful bouquets. I'm just saying, I'm just spitballing ideas here, you know what I mean? It's not just money that the job provides. It provides dignity and structure and a sense of place and a sense of purpose. And it provides independence. Applause. No, it provides that independence part. I added that. And so this is Mr. Obama now. And so we're going to have to consider new ways of thinking about these problems, like a universal income, review of our work week, how we retrain our young people, how we make everybody an entrepreneur at some level. But we're going to have to worry about economics if we want to get democracy back on track. Second, Madiba teaches us that some principles really are universal, And the most important one is the principle that we are bound together by a common humanity, and that each individual has inherited dignity and worth. Now it's surprising that we have to affirm this truth today. More than a quarter century after Madiba walked out of prison, I still have to stand here at a lecture and devote some time to saying that black people and white people and Asian people and Latin American people and women and men and gays and straights, that we are all human, that our differences are superficial, they are niggling. Thanks, Jamil. The niggling part that was me that added that. That was in Barack. I gotta read this whole part again because this is awesome. Now it's surprising that we have to affirm this truth today. More than a quarter century, more than 25 years after Madiba walked out of prison, I still have to stand here at a lecture and devote some time to saying that black people and white people and Asian people and Latin American people and women and men and gays and straights, that we are all human, that our differences are superficial, that we should treat each other with care and respect. I would have thought we would have figured that out by now. I thought that basic notion was well established. I would have thought so too, brother. Applause. But it turns out, as we've seen in this recent drift into reactionary politics, that the struggle for basic justice is never truly finished. So we've got to constantly be on the lookout and fight for people who seek to elevate themselves by putting somebody else down. And by the way, we also have to actively resist. This is important, particularly in some countries in Africa like my own father's homeland. I've made this point before. We have to resist the notion that basic human rights like freedom to dissent, or the right of women to fully participate in the society, or the right of minorities to equal treatment, or the right of people not to be beat up and jailed because of their sexual orientation. We have to be careful not to say that somehow, well, that doesn't apply to us, that those are Western ideas rather than universal imperatives. Again, Madiba, he anticipated things. This is my part I add. Maybe he pontificated in a lot of things. What up, Oprah? Hi, Miss Winfrey. How you doing? Yo, that's an awesome deal. You and Apple got going on. I like that. Again, Madiba. This is Mr. Obama again. Again, Madiba, he anticipated things. I'm saying he pontificated on things. He knew what he was talking about. In 1964, before he received the sentence that condemned him to die in prison, he explained from the dark that the Magna Carta, the Petition of Rights, the Bill of Rights, are documents which are held in veneration by Democrats throughout the world. In other words, he didn't say, well, those books were written by South Africans, so I cannot claim them. No, he said that's part of my inheritance. That's part of the human inheritance. That applies here in my country to me and to you. And that's part of what gave him the moral authority that the apartheid government, the apartheid regime could never claim, because he was more familiar with their best values than they were. Laughter. He had read their documents more carefully than they had. And when he went on to say, political division based on color is entirely artificial, and when it disappears, so will the domination of one color group by another. That's Nelson Mandela speaking in 1964, when I was 3 years old. So 64, 4 years later, you were 7. He was 7 years of age when Dr. King was killed, Mr. Obama. Wow. See? David Garrows did such an awesome job with this book, Rising Star, the making of Barack Obama. The way he delved By the way, I am still at page 191. I mean, no, page 391. The chapter titled The Emergence and Achievement. The book is 1,078 pages long, so. I stopped and went to that book to say that Obama said he was 3 when Nelson Mandela spoke there in 1964. That, baby girl, man. God knows, I put it this way. Whatever anger you might have and may not been there for the first 4 years of your life, I will forever ask for forgiveness for that. And God knows what he was doing. My adherence, my want of adherence to follow duty might have been because of it, or it might have been cowardice on my part. I don't know what it is. I think it was meant to happen in the chain of events that it was. I think you were meant to be named Aja Jenabalamranaba, so I can use the first 2 letters of your first 3 names to have your name Ajela, Hajela, and put it together with Gadfly. So my message to you will be a message to Black America specifically and Black folks all around the world anyway. As yes, you know what I mean. Numbers are funny. I hope you get what I'm trying to say here. And I say that to say that that's why I'm asking for a 50-year reading 30 minutes a day and voting every year from Black America. Because it matters. Obama was 3 when Mandela said that in 64. Mandela was getting ready to do 27 years of hard labor on an island prison. He would have been 100 years this year, but he only lived to 95. Gotta give him a long life. He did 27 years of hard labor, yeah. 27 years of hard motherfucking labor. Came back out. But I kind of digress. I kind of had a moment where I felt like I had to say something to Geneva real quick. So let me go back to the start of that paragraph. Again, Madiba, he anticipated things. I'm saying he pontificated on things. Did you get from that last time how Obama insinuated that Mandela knew that because he was so well read, he understood everything the white man was using against him better than they knew it, because he grasped the full value of it because he read into it? Like, read and vote, 30 minutes a day, that's all it starts. Can you imagine if we have 30 million black folks or 40 million black folks within 30 minutes a day for the next 5-6 years to start? That new day on the horizon that Oprah was talking about, we will see a little bit of the sun shining over that horizon. Yeah, my symbolism game is not really on point. When I get to Dr. King's Why We Can't Wait, this man's symbolism game is on point. So I tell you, man, if you've read Dr. King's work, another black man who was hated in his time, but right after he was killed, he was celebrated. You know, Mandela was hated at the time. He was supposedly wanting to overthrow the government of South Africa. The man was a black man in his own country. He just wanted equal rights for him and his kinfolk. Again, Madiba, he anticipated things. He knew what he was talking about. In 1964, before he received the sentence that condemned him to die in prison, he didn't die. My man made it out and lived to 95. Thank you, God. God is good, yo, all the time. Let me stop. Nah, I ain't gonna stop. In 1964, before he received the sentence that condemned him to die in prison, he explained from the dock that the Magna Carta, y'all remember from Jeopardy earlier, the Magna Carta came out in 1215. The Petition of Rights, I don't remember what year that, probably right before the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, probably the Declaration of Independence. Is this the Petition of Rights? I got a copy. I got. This is not like the one that like Nicolas Cage's character stole the National Treasure. This is not that one. I actually bought this at 7-Eleven, so I didn't have to break into the National Archives and try to get it all that. I think this is the Petition of Rights I was talking about. Yeah, I had this teacher, right, Miss Leahy, in the 10th grade, who was my literature teacher. I think I've probably talked about her before. She was awesome, yo. She gave us a challenge. Who can memorize part of this or a couple of other things? We had different options. Like, I'm a history buff. I've always loved history. I've always, the dates and the chronological happenings of things and the context of how those things happen in the time it happened. That's why I believe I'm living in historic times, especially since 9/11. So, but still, long story short, Miss Leahy had us memorize it, and I got extra credit for it. You know what I mean, I could remember part of it right now. I probably said some of it earlier, but the Magna Carta, the Petition of Rights, this is what he was talking about. When in the course of human events, Trump's election represent that when in the course of human events, it's time for Black America to assert some action into what we need, into putting the fear of God into white supremacy, white privilege, white power, keeping the black man downism. Yeah, I just made that shit up. Keeping the black man downism. Yeah. You want to put the fear of God into all of that bullshit right there that I just pointed out? We didn't vote. They will see us coming but never see us coming. Our minds will be so open up. We already have the physical ability, the physical superiority, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean? We built this country. We're not lazy. I know black folk like to say we're lazy, and I say it almost every day. Yeah, I'm talking about people who are actually lazy, who don't want to do shit, who want to depend on GRs and the system and shit. That's what I'm talking about, you know what I mean? Everybody who wants to be a rapper or something out there that's not actually putting in the time and effort in everyday life to do something. Why not plumber, a mechanic? There's something in that. You know what I mean? They need truck drivers right now. UPS could use, like, there's a shortage of truck drivers right now. There is, actually. Prices have been going up because companies have been passing the cost on to consumers. Read up on that shit. I'm not lying. But Miss Leahy had us memorize that to the point where it was like, yeah. So here it goes. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to assume the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind required that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Okay, I gotta say that part again. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind required that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Mandela knew that. He embodied that. He believed that. That's what Obama was pretty much saying. I'm just trying to say that. We hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That was a good movie, by the way, Will. Happiness, Happy. I like that. But I digress again. So, let me see. Again, Madiba, he anticipated things. He knew what he was talking about. In 1964, before he received the sentence that condemned him to die in prison, he didn't die. He explained from the dock that the Magna Carta, the Petition of Rights, the Bill of Rights are documents which are held in veneration by Democrats throughout the world. In otherwise, he didn't say, well, those books weren't written by South Africans, so I cannot claim them. No, he said that part of my inheritance, that's part of the human inheritance that applies here in this country to me and to you. And that's part of what gave him the moral authority that the apartheid regime could never claim. Because he was more familiar with their best values than they were. If you can't beat them, join them. To keep a secret from a black man, put it in a book. Read Black America, please read. It's free. Can't nobody take what's in your head. What's in here? Stop believing them dumbass little YouTube videos and Facebook links and all kind of Instagram and Snapchat bullshit, yo. Yes, YouTube is a great tool. YouTube is an absolute great tool. I'm taking advantage of it. I understand the power of social media. I understand the potential of social media. I don't want to exploit it. I don't. If that was my intention, that could have been done. Like I said, you got to be able to live with yourself with whatever you do to put food on the table. You know what I mean? You got to be able to live with yourself. If you can't live with yourself, it's not fun. If you can live with yourself while doing some grimy, nasty Trumpian bullshit, that means your heart is dirty. You got a heart of darkness. Yeah, I like that literally play on word. But yeah, y'all know what I mean. And that's part of what gave him the moral authority that the apartheid regime could never claim, because he was more familiar with their best values than they were. He had read their documents more carefully than they had, and he went on to say, political division based on color is entirely artificial. It was created by white men. It started by the Arabs, but the white men just perfected it. Specifically, the European immigrants in the New World that became America. Y'all know what I mean. Political division based on color is entirely artificial, and when it disappears, so will the domination of one color group by another. That's Nelson Mandela speaking in 1964, when I was 3 years old. What was true then remains true today. Basic truths do not change. It is a truth that can be embraced by the English, and by the Indian, and by the Mexican, and by the Bantu, and by the Luo, and by the American. It is a truth that lies at the heart of every world religion, that we should do unto others and we will have them do unto us. Applause. That we see ourselves in other people, that we can recognize common hopes and common dreams, that it is a truth that is incompatible with any form of discrimination based on religion, based on race or religion or gender or sexual orientation. And it is a truth that, by the way, when embraced, actually delivers practical benefits, since it ensures that a society can draw upon the talents and energy and skill of all its people. And if you doubt that, just ask the French football team that just won the World Cup. Cheers and applause, because not all of those folks look like ghosts to me. But they're French. Yo, do me a favor. Stop right now and go look at the apology that Trevor Noah issued to the French ambassador to the United States. Just type in Trevor Noah, French ambassador. If you want to get better context of what I'm referring to, look at the episode he did saying that it wasn't France that won the World Cup, it was Africa, because you don't get no tan like that, so the south of France, you know. But check it out, it is funny as hell. Embracing our common humanity does not mean that we have, yo, I swear, yo, Obama had probably seen that. Obama was probably looking at that, flipping through while he was writing that part, or he probably added, or he thought about that, or he probably added that. You're like, yeah, my boy Trevor did the South African. Just drop that nugget. Let me throw that in there. Or maybe it was a little, you know, maybe. I don't know. What's up, fellas? What up, Trev? Yo, you be killing. You Samantha B kills it on late night. Jimmy Kimmel been out long enough for me to consider him like a Johnny Carson status. So, but you and Sammy B right now of the newcomers, yeah, two thumbs up, two thumbs up, two thumbs up. Can you see my thumbs up, right? Two thumbs up, two thumbs up. Roger Ebert, two thumbs up. Hey, may he rest in peace, Roger Ebert. He married his sister. I like that. Robert De Niro status. I digress. Let me get back to this. Embracing our common humanity does not mean that we have to obtain our unique ethnic and national and religious identities. Madiba never stopped being proud of his tribal heritage. He didn't stop being proud of being a black man and being a South African. But he believed, as I believed, that you can be proud of your heritage without denigrating those of a different heritage. In fact, you dishonor your heritage. It will make me think that you're a little insecure about your heritage if you've got to put someone else's heritage down. Yeah, that's right, laughter. Don't you get a sense sometimes, again, I'm ad-libbing here, Mr. Obama saying that. Don't you get a sense sometimes, again, I'm ad-libbing here, that these people who are so intense on putting people down are puffing themselves up, that they're small-hearted, that there's something they're just afraid of? Madiba knew that we cannot claim justice for ourselves when it's only reserved for some. Madiba understood that we can't say we've got a just society simply because we replace the color of the person on top of an unjust system. So the person look like us even though they're doing the same stuff. And somehow now we've got justice. That doesn't work. He said that, not I. But I'm also saying that doesn't work. That's why he's just become the fourth greatest American president in the history of American presidency. You heard it here first. Cheers and applause. Mr. Obama is going on to say, it's not justice if now you're on top, so I'm going to do the same thing that these folks were doing to me, and now I'm going to do it to you. That's not justice. I detest racialism, he said, whether it comes from a black man or a white man. I have some of that, but I don't practice it. I speak on it. I don't practice it. Far from it. I speak on it, and I speak against it when I notice it. And a lot of whites that practice that racialism are in denial of the practice of their racialism. So being the black man that I have turned out to be, I like to call them out on that shit to their face, because if you can't deal with the radical honesty of it right then and there, what's the point of trying to deal with it at some point anyway? I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Mr. Obama is more diplomatic than I am. That's why he made his way to the presidency of the United States. They can never take that away from you. Even though they're trying to limit, they're trying to make sure that's what you're remembered for. I get it. That's still a big accomplishment in itself. At the same time, though, you will always be remembered for closing the gap between rich and poor. At least in my book, that's what elevated you up here. And the white lash that came after you were leaving will always, yeah, I will always call out white racialism for that. Mr. Obama goes on to say, now we have to acknowledge that there is this orientation that comes from rapid change and modernization. And the fact that the world has shrunk and we're going to have to find ways to lessen the fears of those who feel threatened. In the West's current debate around immigration, for example, it's not wrong to insist that national borders matter. Whether you're a citizen or not is going to matter to a government. That laws need to be followed. That in the public realm, newcomers should make an effort to adapt to the language and customs of their new home. Those are legitimate things and we have to be able to engage people who do feel as if things are not orderly. But that can't be an excuse for immigration policy based on race or ethnicity or religion. There's got to be some consistency, and we can enforce the law while representing the essential humanity of those who are striving for a better life. Cheers and applause. For a mother with a child in her arms, we can recognize there could be somebody in our family. That could be somebody in our family. That could be my child. Third, Madiba reminds us that democracy, yo, this man that went on so deep into this whole issue, yo. Mr. President, you the man. I ain't talking about you, Trump. Fuck you, you dumb Trump, fucking idiot. Mr. Barack Hussein Obama, Mr. 44, the 43rd man, Mr. 44, the real man, the real done, yeah, bro. He don't went so deep. I've forgotten what 3 points about Madiba he was gonna. You my man, Blue. Third, Madiba reminds us that democracy is about more than just elections. When he was freed from prison, Madiba's popularity, well, you couldn't even measure it. He could have been president for life. Am I wrong? Laughter. Who was going to run against him? Laughter. I mean, Ramaphosa was popular, but come on. Laughter. Plus, he was too young. Had he chose, Madiba could have governed by executive fiat, unrestrained by checks and balances. But instead, he helped guide South Africa through the drafting of a new constitution, drawing from all the. That's why Invictus was such a good movie. Even though Matt Damon, I'm a little mad at you for how you turned against Obama later on. I know you're gonna come out and you say that race and color had nothing to do with that. Listen, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. If you want to have that conversation, we can have it on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live. It's totally up to you, sir. We're not going to have a conversation that's going to be edited, and it's got to be open like that, you know what I mean? Open dialogue. I believe in that. I'm just saying. I'm sorry, but Invictus was a great movie. I will forever support and appreciate Matt Damon more than I'll ever support and appreciate someone like Mark Wahlberg. Even though he's in one of my favorite movies ever, The Italian Job, I think your brother Danny is less of a Boston racist than you are. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion, sir. And I think it's backed by nuanced facts that cannot be proven, but it is what it is. That's the beauty of digital racism in America. Had he chosen, Madiba could have governed by executive fiat, unrestrained by check and balance, but instead he helped guide South Africa through the drafting of a new constitution, drawing from all the institutional practices and democratic ideals that had proven to be most sturdy, mindful of the fact that no single individual possesses a monopoly on wisdom. No individual, not Mandela, not Obama, are entirely immune to the corrupting influence of absolute power. If you can do whatever you want and everybody's too afraid to tell you when you're making a mistake, no one is immune from the dangers of that. Madiba understood this. He said, no, he didn't say Madiba. He said, Mandela understood this. He said, Obama is saying Mandela said, democracy is based on the majority principle. This is especially true in a country such as ours, where he was speaking of South Africa. This is especially true in a country such as ours, where the vast majority have been systematically denied their rights. At the same time, democracy also requires the rights of politics and other minorities be safeguarded. He understood it's not just about who has the most votes. It's also about the civic culture that we built that makes democracy work. So we have to stop pretending that countries that just hold an election where sometimes the winner somehow magically gets 90% of the votes because all the opposition is locked up. Or can't get on TV. He didn't say Putin there. I added the whole Putin part. If you didn't get that, I'm sorry. Fox News Obama did not say, but this African did. Different black man. White black man, not President Obama. But I I know that's what, you know, but let me go back to just say though. So we have to stop pretending that countries that just hold an election where sometimes the winner somehow magically gets 90% of the votes because all the opposition is locked up or can't get on TV. It's a democracy. Democracy depends on strong institutions and it's about minority rights and checks and balances, and freedom of speech and freedom of expression and a free press, and the right to protest and petition the government, and an independent judiciary, and everybody having to follow the law. And yes, democracy can be messy, and it can be slow, and it can be slow, and it can be frustrating. I know, I promise, laughter. But the efficiency that's offered by an autocrat, that's a false promise. Don't take that one because it leads invariably to more consolidation of wealth at the top and power at the top, and it makes it easier to conceal corruption and abuse. For all its imperfections, real democracy best upholds the idea that government exists to serve the individual and not the other way around. Applause. And it is the only form of government that has the possibility of making that idea real. So for those of us who are interested in strengthening democracy, I'm one. I'm putting both my hands on Black Lives Matter, African Lives Matter, Democratic Africa, all 54 countries. Yo, my baby girl about to be 4 when this comes out. I'm advocating blacks to the wall, read 30 minutes a day, and vote in every election in their community, in their countries, in their cities for the next 50 years. She will be 54 then. We have 54 countries in Africa, which can be like the United States of Africa, you know what I mean? Like, it can be equally developed. Like, it is possible, yo. It is possible. I just got a mental orgasm when I made that correlation between her being 4 years of age and me proposing a 50-year start that leads to the new day on the horizon. Yeah, see, numbers are awesome. Numbers never lie. That was like one of the coolest shows ESPN had, yo. That was like one of the coolest shows ESPN had. My valedictorian brother. I was never a valedictorian. I graduated like maybe top 3% of my graduating class, but I was never the valedictorian. I had 2 white folks who split the valedictorianship, so, and rightly so. They had a head start. Head start. It's like, now let me stop. But now we will talk though. That was an awesome way how those numbers worked out. Hey babe, I'm gonna get you a bike. That bike, grandma told me, I'm gonna get you that bike. I found one on Amazon, and I even checked. There's proof of this. When the Russian hackers eventually hack into my phone and my account and everything else, I know they're tapped into all my shit right now. When they eventually do, like, it was a period of time when I looked on Amazon to try to see if I can order a bicycle that had the tassels and all that, that's nice and pink. It was from Schwinn, and I was trying to get it delivered to Sierra Leone, but Amazon doesn't deliver in Sierra Leone. Bezos, what's up? Oh, another thing. If I do get deported, right, Netflix, Pandora, Spotify, and Hulu, can you guys please, and also YouTube to a certain degree, Google specifically, Alphabet. Alpha is actually an alphabet company. I'm alphabetizing this whole thing. You like how I'm using my name in this whole Alphabet Incorporated thing? I digress. I hope you guys start allowing the nation of Sierra Leone to have access to your networks, to be able to watch shows like Blue Bloods, NCIS or some shit, or Mayans that's coming up, or Better Call Saul. I would love to be able to see that, but that's when Trump. That's after Trump and Jeff Sessions and Stephen Miller deport my ass up. Where was I? Where was I? Where was I? Where was I? And yes, democracy can be messy, and it can be slow, and it can be frustrating. I know, I promise, laughter. But the efficiency that's offered by an autocrat, that's a false promise. Don't take that one because it leads invariably to more consolidation of power at the top and power at the top, more consolidation of wealth at the top and power at the top. And it makes it easier to conceal corruption and abuse. For all its imperfections, real democracy best upholds the idea that government exists to serve the individual and not the other way around. Applause. And it is the only form of government that has the possibility of making that idea real. So for those of us who are interested in strengthening democracy, I'm one. Democracy matters in Africa, says the African booty scratcher. So for those of us who are interested in strengthening democracy, let us stop. Okay, nah, he didn't say that. He said, for those of us who are interested in strengthening democracy, let's also stop. It's time for us to stop paying all of our attention to the world's capitals and the centers of power and to start focusing more on the grassroots, because that's where democratic legitimacy comes from, not from the top down. Democracy is not built with a trickle-down mentality. I added that part about democracy not being built for a trickle-down democracy. Mr. Obama instead says, it's time for us to stop paying all of our attention to the world's capitals and to the centers of power and to start focusing more on the grassroots, because that's where democratic legitimacy comes from. Not from the top down, not from abstract theories, not just from experts, but from the bottom up. I'm at the bottom. Your daddy is literally broke right now trying to make it paycheck to paycheck. I took a step down, a couple of rungs down in seeing career moves, you know what I mean? But there is a method to my madness. I'm happy at doing the work I'm doing right now because it gives me a chance to interact with different people from different walks of life and different nationalities, especially working at Staples Center, you know what I mean? I get to work Laker games, like the Kobe head in me that's just a boom. Like, yeah, I hope I don't lose that job. I really hope I don't, because it's an awesome gig. Like, I get to meet Kiwis and Australians and Canadians, lots of Canadians, and Mexicans and Brazilians and Ecuadorians, you know what I mean, Guyanans, you know what I mean, like, yes, I get to meet Germans, French, British, Irish, people from all different nations and all different walks of life, because everybody comes to LA and everybody wants to go to Staples Center. It is Staples Center. So, yeah. Not from the top down, not from abstract theories, not from experts, but from the bottom up. Knowing the lives of those who are struggling. This guy. Hey, world. Like I said, I'm not tripping about all that. You know what I mean? I still got my job that's helping me keep a roof over my head. I feel like this has to be done, though. So, hopefully, Trump can deport my ass so I can be reunited with my daughter. Not reunited. I can be with her. You know what I mean? Reunited and it feels so good. I know y'all saw that coming like maybe 3 seconds ago, but then when I ain't do it, I probably thought, yeah, see, if he was a born American comedian or somebody that was born in America that was doing something like this, that's where his mind would have went first. My mind went there, but I had to say something else. When I thought about it, I had to say something else, but yeah. Reunited and it feels so good. It's like, nah, let me stop. Not from the top down, not from abstract theories, not just from experts, but from the bottom up. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Knowing the lives of those who are struggling, As a community organizer, I learned as much from a laid off steelworker in Chicago or a single mom in a poor neighborhood that I visited as I learned from the finest economists in the Oval Office. Democracy means being in touch and in tune with life as it's lived in our communities. For it, I added the whole side voting part. Mr. Obama went on to say, and that's what we should expect from our leaders. And it depends upon cultivating leaders at the grassroots who can help bring about change and implement it on the ground and can tell leaders in fancy buildings, this isn't working down here. And to make democracy work, Madiba shows us that we also have to keep teaching our children and ourselves. And this is really hard, to engage with people who not only look different, but who hold different views. This is hard. Most of us prefer to surround ourselves with opinions that validate what we already believe. You notice the people who you think are smart and the people who you agree with. Laughter. Funny how that works. But democracy demands that we're able also to get inside the reality of people who are different than us so we can understand their point of view. Maybe we can change their minds, but maybe they'll change ours. And we can't do this if you just out of hand disregard what your opponents have to say from the start. And you can't do it if you insist that those who aren't like you because they're white or because they're male, that somehow they're not even, there's no way they can understand what I'm feeling, that somehow they lack standing to speak on certain matters. Madiba, who lived in complexity, in prison he studied Afrikaans so that he could better understand the people who were jailing him. And when he got out of prison, he extended a hand to those who had jailed him, because he knew that they had to be a part of the democratic South Africa that he wanted to build. To make peace with an enemy, he wrote, one must work with an enemy, and that enemy becomes one's partner. So those who traffic in absolutes when it comes to policy, whether it's on the left or the right, they make democracy unworkable. They can expect to get 100% of what you want. You can't expect to get 100% of what you want all the time. Say, you can't always get what you want. What if you say, second, now let me stop. Mr. Obama said, for those who traffic in absolutes when it comes to policy, whether it's on the left or the right, they make democracy unworkable. You can't expect to get 100% of what you want all the time. Sometimes you have to compromise. That doesn't mean abandoning your principle, but instead it means holding on to those principles and then having the confidence that they're going to stand up to a serious democratic debate. That's how America's founders intended our system to work. That through the testing of ideas and the application of reason and proof, it would be possible to arrive at a basis for common ground. And I should add, for this to work, we have to actually believe in an objective reality. This is another one of those things that I didn't have to lecture about. You have to believe in facts. That's all I got, y'all. Facts. Take that for data. I was not yesterday, I am not today, I will not be tomorrow part of anything that has to do with fake news. I can't be me, I can't be alpha, I can't be radically honest alpha if I peddle, if I snake all fake news. Champion idiocracy. Champion dumbassery. Dumb truck Trump America dumbassery. Yeah, I said it. Fuck you, you racist, rapist pig of an ass. Let me go back to somebody who was a real man was saying, yo, your State of the Union address was not this long. You could not comprehend and concoct in your dumbass mind, in your little peanut butter toothpaste mind. You could not come up with these ideals, with these thoughts, with these understandings of what it means to be a human and to be a leader of the free world. You've quite literally, for a period of 4 years, you have quite literally removed the phrase leader of the free world from existence because you are not one. Obama was the last one. We got to do it with recalibration in America. Black America, with the help of the 55% of good-hearted white Americans in this country, with the 55% good-hearted white Americans in this country, black and brown America, we need to do a recalibration. Like the declaration, like those white men declared in 1776, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them to another. I digress. Mr. Obama goes on to say, and I shall add, for this to work, we have to actually believe in an objective reality. This is another one of these things that I didn't have to lecture about. You have to believe in fact, laughter. Without fact, there is no basis for cooperation. If I say this is a podium and you say this is an elephant, it's going to be hard for us to cooperate, laughter. I can find common ground for those who oppose the Paris Accords because, for example, they might say, well, it's not going to work. You can't get everybody to cooperate. Or they might say it's more important for us to provide cheap energy for the poor, even if it means in short term that there is more pollution. At least I can have a debate with them about that, and I can show them why I think clean energy is the better path. It is. I said that it is, so. At least I can have a debate with them about that, and I can show them why I think clean energy is the better path, especially for poor countries, that you can leapfrog old technologies, especially for poor countries that you can leapfrog old technologies. Cheers. I can't find common ground if somebody says climate change is not just happening, when almost all of the world scientists tell us it is. I don't know where to start talking to you about this, laughter. If you start saying it's an elaborate hoax, I don't know what to. Where do we start? He's asking that. Hey, I feel you too, man. You're going through the same thing I'm going through. You probably going through it worse because this motherfucker replaced you as president. You are quite literally the original victim of Trump-related post-traumatic stress disorder, and you handling it well without medication. Hey, Barry, now let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question real quick. Have you started supporting Philip Morris again? You have? You ain't smoking Newports again, are you? Come on now. Don't let Trump drive you to smoke again. I know he ain't gonna drive you to drink, but please don't let him don't let him drive you to smoke his cigarettes again. I bet yo, I swear by mine, on January 1st of 27, on January 24th of 2017, I bet you the first thing you did when you woke up in the morning, man, you don't kiss Michelle, you went outside, I bet you asked one of those Secret Service agents, or you probably had a secret stash somewhere. Probably want a little cigarette. You're like, whoo-sa. Let me woo-sa this real quick, because this motherfucker about to fuck some shit up, but let me woo-sa some shit real quick. I'm sorry, guys. I digress again. Mr. Obama goes on to say, I promise you, now we're almost there. Promise you, we're almost there. Okay. Mr. Obama goes on to say, unfortunately, too much of politics today seems to reject the very concept of objective truth. People just make stuff up. They just make stuff up. We see it in state-sponsored propaganda. We see it in internet-driven fabrication. Cambridge Analytica, Steve Bannon, Koch brothers. We see it in the blurring of lines between news and entertainment. Roseanne, Fox and Friends, Roseanne, Fox and Friends. We see the utter loss of shame among political leaders where they're caught in a lie and they just double down and they lie some more. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Paul Ryan, Steve Bannon, Mitch McConnell, who else? Stephen Miller, Christine Nielsen. She has like the most racist sounding Nazi name ever, y'all. I'm gonna leave you alone. You got enough to deal with. No, you don't. You shouldn't be dealing with none of that shit, but unfortunately, you got enough to deal with, so I'm gonna leave you alone. We see the utter loss of shame among political leaders where they're caught in a lie and they just double down and they lie some more. Politicians have always lied. To be if you caught them lying, they'd be like, oh man, now they just keep on lying. Rudy Giuliani. By the way, this is what I think Mama Grasser was talking about in terms of maybe some sense of humility that Madiba felt. Like sometimes just basic stuff. Me not completely lying to people seems pretty basic. I don't think of myself as a great leader just because I didn't completely make stuff up. You're absolutely right. But I get where you're going with it. In this context of Trumpian dumbassery, you, the natural, true, great leader, have to say things like this. Let me go back to what Mr. Obama was saying. By the way, this is what I think Mama Grasser was talking about in terms of maybe some sense of humility that Madiba felt. Like sometimes just basic stuff, me not completely lying to people, seems pretty basic. I don't think of myself as a great leader just because I don't completely make stuff up. You'd think that was a baseline. Anyway, we see in the promotion of anti-intellectualism. Love that line, bro. Anyway, we see it in the promotion of anti-intellectualism and the rejection of science from leaders who find critical thinking and data somehow politically inconvenient. And as with the denial of rights, the denial of facts run counter to democracy. It could be it could be its undoing, which is why we must zealously protect independent media. And we have to guard against the tendency for social media to become purely a platform for spectacle, outrage, or disinformation. We have to, speaking of disinformation, I will never sow disinformation. I just want you to know that now. If you've gotten to this point, and for some reason you have any inkling of a doubt in your mind that I'm not being truthful in the words that are coming out of my mouth, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Man, nobody understand the words that are. Sorry, let me stop. Like, I am not using this platform to sow spectacle, outrage, or disinformation. I'm using this platform to try to awaken the black masses. Try to see if pointing out that reading 30 minutes a day, which might lead to voting in every election in your community, can lead to true sustained black progress over the next half a century to the next century or so. You know, I think if you've gotten to this point and you have any doubt that I might be lying about anything, you go read it yourself. I want you to if you can decide to stop listening to me right now and go look at this Barack Obama speech and read it all in its entirety, it might take you less time to read it because I'm injecting my opinions into a lot of it. But this was Obama talking at Mandela's 100th year anniversary of his birth. So it's supposed to be a spectacle. It's supposed to be this long anyway. So I just had to say that to say that. I'm just saying. I'm keeping it 100 here, you know what I mean? And Mr. Obama goes on to say, and as with the denial of rights, the denial of facts run counter to democracy. It could be its undoing, which is why we must zealously protect independent media. And we have to guard against the tendency for social media to become purely a platform for spectacle, outrage, or disinformation. And we have to insist that our schools teach critical thinking to our young people, not just blind obedience, which I'm sure you are thankful for, leads to my final point. We have to follow Madiba's example of persistence and of hope. 50 years, persistence. Reading 30 minutes a day, hope. I didn't know Mr. Obama was going to say this, but I do believe, I think along the same lines of the Mandelas and the Obamas and the W.E.B. Du Bois and the Dr. Kings and the Malcolm X's and the Fred Hamptons, you know, and the Marcus Garveys and the parts of Booker T. Washington's and the Frederick Douglasses and the Sojourner Truths and the Harriet Tubmans. You know what I mean? Like the Susan B. Anthony's, the Rosa Parks. I could go on and on, the Jesse Jacksons, the Al Sharptons, not the Cornel Wests. Fuck you, Cornell. I'm just saying. But I digress again. I'm sorry, yeah. Mr. Obama goes on to say, which I'm sure you're thankful for, leads to my final point. You're like, yeah, I want me to shut up now, huh? If you want me to shut up personally, you're gonna have to go watch some more, so go pick up a book. I got about maybe 70 some more hours to go, so. Mr. Obama goes on to say, which I'm sure you are thankful for, leads to my final point. We have to follow Madiba's example of persistence and of hope. It is tempting to give in to cynicism. I'm a natural cynic, and I'm hoping because of my natural cynicism, but my heart is in the right place with my cynicism. So I'm hoping that that temptation can lead to you buying into what I'm saying about reading and voting. That's it. That's all my cynicism is about. Mr. Obama goes on to say, it is tempting to give into cynicism, to believe there are recent shifts in global politics my phone is at like 12%, so I had to get my charge on there real quick. Mr. Obama goes on to say, which I'm sure you are thankful for, leads to my final point. We have to follow Madiba's example of persistence and of hope. It is tempting to give in to cynicism, to believe that recent shifts in global politics are too powerful to push back. When the pendulum has swung permanently, no, I'm sorry, I just messed that up. He said, it is tempting to give in to cynicism, to believe that recent shifts in global politics are too powerful to push back. That the pendulum has swung permanently. It hasn't. It will be if we don't take action. I added that part. Mr. Obama goes on to say, just as people spoke about the triumph of democracy in the 90s, now we are hearing people talk about the end of democracy and the triumph of tribalism and the strong man. We have to resist that cynicism. Because they've been through darker times, because we've been through darker times, we've been in lower valleys and deeper valleys. Yes, by the end of his life, Madiba embodied a successful struggle for human rights. But the journey was not easy. It wasn't preordained. The man went to prison for almost 3 decades. He split limestone in the heat. He slept in a small cell and was repeatedly put in solitary confinement. And I remember talking to some of his former colleagues saying how they hadn't realized when they were released just the sight of a child, the idea of holding a child they had missed. It wasn't something valuable to them for decades. It wasn't something available to them for decades. And yet his power actually grew during those years. And the power of his jailers diminished because he knew that if you stick to what's true, if you know what's in your heart and you are willing to sacrifice for it, even in the face of overwhelming odds, that it might not happen tomorrow, it might not happen in next week, it might not even happen in your lifetime. Things may go backwards for a while, but ultimately, right makes might, not the other way around. Ultimately, the better story can win out, and as strong as Madiba's spirits may have been, he would not have sustained that hope had he not been alone, had he been alone in the struggle. Part of part of Bayud part of Bayud him up was that part of what buyed him up was that he knew that each year the ranks of freedom fighters were replenishing. Young men and women here in South Africa, and in the ANC and beyond, black and Indian and white, from across the countryside, across the continent, around the world, who in those most difficult days will keep working on behalf of his vision. And that's what we need right now. We don't need just one leader. We don't just need one inspiration. What we badly need right now is that collective spirit. And I know that these young people, these hope carriers, are gathering around the world because history shows that whenever progress is threatened and the things we care about most are in question, we should heed the words of Robert Kennedy, spoken here in South Africa. He said, "Our answer is the world's hope. It is to rely on the youth. It is to rely on the spirits of the young." That's another good-hearted white man that was killed 50 years ago. Soon after Dr. King was killed, about two months apart. And I mean, it's like I said, like Robert Kennedy said, our answer is the world's hope. It is to rely on the youth. It is to rely on the spirits of the young. About 54% of the population of Africa is under the age of 18. That's the youth right there. Period. Mr. Obama goes on to say, "So young people who are in the audience, who are listening, my message to you is simple. Keep believing, keep marching, keep building, keep raising your voice. Every generation has the opportunity to remake the world. Mandela said young people are capable when aroused of bringing down the towers of oppression and raising the banners of freedom. Now is a good time to be aroused. Now is a good time to be fired up. And for those of us who care about the legacy that we honor here today, about equality and dignity and democracy and solidarity and kindness, those of us who remain young at heart, if not in body, we have an obligation to help our youth succeed. Some of you know here in South Africa, my foundation is convening over the last few days. 200 young people from across this continent who are doing the hard work of making change in their communities, who reflect Madiba's values, who are poised to lead the way. People like Abbas Mindi, a journalist from Uganda who founded the Media Challenge Initiative to help other young people get the training they need to tell their stories that the world needs to know. People like Karen Wakoli, an entrepreneur from Kenya who founded the Emerging Leaders Foundation to get young people involved in the work of fighting poverty and promoting human dignity. People like Enoch Nulanka, who directs the African Children's Mission, which helps children in Uganda and Kenya get the education that they need, and then in his spare time, Enoch advocates for the rights of children around the globe and founded an organization called Lead Minds Africa, which does exactly what it says. Leads Minds. You meet these people, you talk to them, they will give you hope. They are taking the baton. They know they can't just rest on the accomplishments of the past, even the accomplishments of those as momentous as Nelson Mandela's. They stand on the shoulders of those who came before. Thank you, Kareem. They stand on the shoulders of giants. That was my little ad lib there. I'm sorry. You meet these, Mr. Obama goes on to say, you meet these people, you talk to them, they will give you hope. They are taking the baton. They know they can't just rest on the accomplishments of the past, even the accomplishments of those as momentous as Nelson Mandela's. They stand on the shoulders of those who came before, including that young black boy born 100 years ago. But they know that it is now their turn to do the work. Madiba reminds us that no one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin, or his background, or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart. Love comes more naturally to the human heart. Let's remember that truth. Let's see it as our North Star. Let's be joyful in our struggle to make that truth manifest here on earth so that in 100 years from now, see, so I'm asking 50 because I think 100 years is too much to ask, but Mr. Obama is right. Now let me go back. Mr. Obama goes on to say, Madiba reminds us that no one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin and his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if you can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart. Love comes more naturally to the human heart. Let's remember that truth. Let's see it as our North Star. Let's be joyful in our struggle to make that truth manifest here on earth so that in 100 years from now, future generations will look back and say, they kept the march going. That's why we live under new banners of freedom. Thank you very much, South Africa. Thank you. So, that was President Barack Obama's speech at Nelson Mandela's 100-year anniversary. Alright. My ass is starving right now, so I'm gonna pause real quick, go get me a burrito. Like I alluded to earlier, only in America. It's like 12 something in the morning. An African about to go get a Mexican burrito at his Mexican truck. Gotta love it. Love LA for that. Give me a second wall, I'll be right back.